Welcome in to Locked On Knicks. It's draft day, and maybe, just maybe, someone will slide to the Knicks on this draft day. They do, after all, have 3 picks at their disposal, so who knows? Someone always slides on draft day, right? Let's check out some guys that would be potentially big steals if they make it to the Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in to Locked On Knicks, and I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. We appreciate you making us a part of your daily routine. Maybe today we're your second listen, third listen. If you've listened to all the shows that we put out today, it's the third episode in one calendar day, and we might have a fourth coming later today after the draft. So definitely make sure that you have your subscription on YouTube, notification bell turned on, and your subscription on your favorite podcast app, and your auto download function turned on so you never miss an episode, because we put out a bunch of them. We're working our butts off to try to cover these trades and the draft and everything all at once. There's so much going on. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site, The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land. And I'm back again to check out some more prospects that could potentially be available to the Knicks in this draft. And I was lucky enough, all of our Locked On experts got together and put together a bunch of nice handy clips. So I've made kind of like a little TV clip show here to give you guys an idea of some of these prospects, just a little bite-sized amount of information that gives you an idea of who some of these guys are. Maybe you go and watch some more YouTube videos after this or something if you're curious about one or two names. This episode is going to focus mostly on guys that are mocked higher than where the Knicks are. So these guys would either be trade-up candidates if they start falling, or maybe they just fall right into the Knicks' lap at pick 24 or 25, and they decide to take them there for whatever reason. There's always one or two guys that slides on draft night for reasons unknown and finds themselves with another team. So we'll see if maybe that happens or not. But if you haven't checked it out already too, make sure you check out the first part of these episodes. Well, okay, check out both episodes we've put out today, quite frankly. If you haven't heard, Mikal Bridges is a Knick, so check that episode out first. We put that out overnight. And then check out the first episode like this that I put out today, where I got into some slightly more realistic prospects, guys that could go in the 20s or possibly in the early 30s, where the Knicks have most of their actual pick power in this draft. But let's talk about these guys that could potentially slip to them. So we'll start with Ja'Kobe Walter, freshman guard from Baylor. This guy came up in my discussion with no ceilings, if I remember correctly, and they were totally in on the idea that if he falls to the Knicks, it could potentially be a good investment for them. He averaged 14.5 points per game, 4.4 boards, 1.5 assists, 1 steal for Baylor. Really terrible shooting numbers, though. 38% from the field, 34% from three. Did shoot 79% from the free throw line, though, which sometimes is used as an indicator of if shooting can get better. So maybe that's worth looking at, especially considering his age. Played in 35 games, played 32 minutes per game. He averages out to pick 19 throughout the 5 mocks that I consulted, as high as 14, as low as 25, though, to the Knicks. So definitely worth considering here. Let's hear from Cam Stewart from Locked On Baylor.
Baylor has had a player selected in the top 16 of the NBA draft the last 3 years. Ja'Kobe Walter is going to be the 4th. I'm Cam Stewart from Locked On Baylor, and Ja'Kobe Walter had a massive freshman season, averaging 15 points a game and 4 rebounds a game on the way to the Big 12 Freshman of the Year. And with his great shooting ability, and I think that defense is going to develop too, I can see a lot of like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in him, maybe even some Jalen Suggs, who became a much better shooter for the Magic this year. I do see him making an impact for someone next year. Maybe a team that is contending for a playoff spot. I could see Ja'Kobe Walter absolutely playing a role for that team. And for more on Walter and all things Baylor, follow and subscribe to Locked On Baylor on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, on to the Dookie. We heard about this guy, I feel like, a lot. If you were paying attention to mocks throughout the season, early on in the season, he was getting mocked to the Knicks a ton, but then kind of played his way out of their range. Although the Knicks maybe also kind of played their way out of his range when they played so well and closed the season as the 2 seed. So double-edged sword there, I guess. But Jared McCain, freshman guard from Duke, averaged 14 points, 5 boards, 2 assists and a steal per game for the Blue Devils this year. Shot 46% from the field, 41% from three, blazing the nets there, and almost 89% from the free throw line. Really good shooter. Played 36 games and averaged 31 and a half minutes per game. In those games, pretty solid consensus on where he's projected to go. It doesn't seem like anyone thinks he's going to make it past the Magic at pick 18. Also went as high as pick 16 and 17 and a couple others, but averaged out to pick 17. So let's hear from Alex Dono from Locked On ACC.
Duke Blue Devils freshman sensation Jared McCain might be the best shooter in this NBA draft. I am Alex Dono from Locked On ACC. While he doesn't have the best length at 6'2", McCain makes up for so much of that with his high basketball IQ, his sharp shooting, and his crafty finishing at the rim. Shot 41.4% from beyond the arc last year, played over 31 minutes per game, averaging 14.3 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal per contest. McCain, by the way, he's got 3 million followers on TikTok, so he's multi-talented, but he's all business when it comes to basketball. That's his number one priority. The ACC All-Rookie and All-ACC Honorable Mention can help an NBA team immediately with his shooting. A common NBA comp for him is Seth Curry. For more on Jared McCain and all things ACC, follow and subscribe to Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
A guy that Gavin and I talked a lot about with our various draft guests, Kel'el Ware, sophomore center from Indiana, a guy maybe the Knicks have an inside track on thanks to his coach being Mike Woodson, who used to be an assistant coach for the Knicks, but a guy who also seems to have maybe played or worked out his way out of the Knicks range at this point. He averaged out to pick 18 throughout the 5 mocks that I consulted, going as high as 13 in one of them. He averaged 16 points, 10 boards, 1.5 assists, and 2 blocks per game for Indiana this year. Pretty impressive numbers. 59% from the field, 42.5% from three, and 63% from the free throw line. So let's hear from Jacob Goins from Locked On Hoosiers about Kel'el Ware.
Kel'el Ware from the Indiana Hoosiers is projected as a first-round pick, but I think he's still being underrated. I'm Jacob Goins from Locked On Hoosiers. Kel'el Ware is a 7-foot, 240-pound center with a 7'7" wingspan who transferred from Oregon to Indiana for his sophomore season. He was all Big Ten second team and all Big Ten defensive team and second in the conference of double-doubles and rebounds per game. His NBA draft comparison is Jared Allen of the Cleveland Cavaliers. People are asking, can he make an immediate impact on an NBA roster? And I say because of his defense, his rebounding, and his inside shot making, he will be seeing the floor early and often for whatever NBA team takes a chance. For more on Kel'el Ware and all things Indiana Hoosiers, follow and subscribe to the Locked On Hoosiers podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Maybe the Knicks go into this draft and they just say, let's get all the do-it-all kind of defensive wings. Let's just draft another Josh Hart type dude who's like a little bit taller. How about we get Tristan Da Silva, a senior wing from Colorado? He averaged 16 points, 5 boards, 2.5 assists, 1.1 steals, and half a block per game this past season. Shot 49% from the field, almost 40% from three, and 84% from the free throw line. He played in 34 games and averaged 34 minutes per game in those games. He's probably going to go before the Knicks pick, though. So maybe he's a prime trade up candidate. I certainly haven't seen anything that makes it seem like he might slide. So this is maybe a trade up situation here. He's mocked at an average of pick 15, as high as 13, as low as 17. So pretty clear mid-teens range there. But let's hear from Kevin Borba from Locked On Buffs about Tristan Da Silva.
Tristan Da Silva is taking his talents to the NBA after a great 4-year career in Boulder. I'm Kevin Borba, host of Locked On Buffs, and I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about Tristan Da Silva. Da Silva is a forward who is 23 years old and was named to 2 All-Pac-12 conference teams during his career, one of which was this past season. He averaged 16 points, grabbed 5 boards, and his skill set is something that will immediately translate to the NBA because he's a lot like Kyle Anderson. He plays defense, he hits threes, and every NBA team needs that pronto. They need it by yesterday, and he could do just that. For more on Tristan Da Silva and all things Colorado, follow and subscribe to Locked On Buffs on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast.
Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. But enough about baseball for just a second. You can get NBA draft tickets on Game Time. Maybe that's the move on this day of days. The Knicks might make 3 draft picks today, and they might not be super high draft picks, but man, that would be pretty fun. It's been a while since we've seen that many new rookies get drafted to the Knicks. Gavin and I will also be there. I can't guarantee that we're going to be able to do any socializing or anything, but maybe you'll see us hanging out because we're going to be there covering the draft. So definitely check it out. I know tickets. My coworker got some off Game Time just today. I think they were like $16 each. Really not too shabby. And that's only going to get less expensive if you get some zone deals or some flash deals leading up to the game, because that's what Game Time is good for. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. This one's probably the biggest stretch of any of the people that I'm going to mention in this clip show, but Rob Dillingham, freshman guard from Kentucky. I don't know. I'm seeing some talk in these mock drafts that he's a guy that, he was projected maybe to be like a top 5 pick, and now is getting mocked a little lower. He averaged out to a spot of 10, as low as 12, as high as 8 in the 5 mocks I consulted. So, maybe a guy that's falling a bit. Maybe that fall continues. Maybe he hits the mid-teens, and maybe that's, the Knicks look to move up and go get him. He had a pretty impressive season, though, like 15 points, 3 boards, 4 assists, 1 steal, 47.5% from the field, 44% from 3, and 80% from the free throw line for Kentucky this year. Averaged 23.3 minutes per game in 32 games. So, that's actually really impressive production given the minutes per game there. So let's hear from Lance Daw from Locked On Kentucky about Rob Dillingham.
Rob Dillingham from the Kentucky Wildcats just may be the best ball handler in this year's draft class. Hi, my name is Lance Daw, host of the Locked On Kentucky podcast, and Dillingham was incredible for the Wildcats coming off the bench a season ago, averaging over 15 points per game while shooting 44% from beyond the arc in just 23 minutes per contest. He was electric, especially in the clutch. Dillingham, I think, would be best served playing point guard, starting point guard for whichever NBA team ends up selecting him. I liken him to a player like Kobe White or maybe even Kemba Walker, just with his confidence, his size at the point guard position, his explosiveness, and of course, his ability to handle the basketball. For more on Dillingham and Kentucky basketball, you can subscribe to the Locked On Kentucky podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Okay, I said the last one was maybe the biggest pipe dream. Maybe this one is the biggest pipe dream. I don't know, though, because it's a little bit of a complicated situation here. Nikola Topic, point guard, 18 years old, from, I am so sorry if I butcher this. I'm not great with Eastern European, but KK Crvena Zvezda in Serbia. Played for pro team in Serbia there. So Topic was once considered one of the guys that could be like one of the 3 or 4 front runners to potentially be the top pick in this draft. But then he tore his ACL recently. So that could lead to a slide for the former top pick contender. That's why you're seeing in mocks now, he's showing up around pick 11 on average. Of all the ones I consulted, he finished as high as 8, as low as 15, depending on the mock you consult. So we'll see how that ends up going on draft night and how big of an issue the ACL is. But for a team like the Knicks, if he hits like pick 15 and you have the chance to move up, draft him, sit on him for a whole year, say, don't worry about it, dude. Rehab your ACL. We'll sign you. You'll get paid. You'll get NBA medical staff to help you out. We'll bring you back stronger than ever next season. And, maybe there'll be some playing time that opens up for you there one way or another. A pretty solid deal, I think. He averaged 14.5 points, 3.2 boards, 5.5 assists, a steal, and not very much of a block in Serbia. He shot 50% from the field, 30.6% from 3, but 89% from the free throw line. So maybe that bodes well for his 3-point shooting in the future. Played in 23 games and averaged about 28 minutes per game, which, as we know, getting that many minutes per game overseas, always pretty impressive because they're playing with like grown men, grown athletes. So let's hear from Leif Thulin from Locked On NBA Big Board about Topic.
Nikola Topic, a Serbian guard who plays for Red Star in Belgrade, Serbia, is an interesting player, and it will be interesting to see where he lands due to tearing his ACL recently. But he does boast unique skills as a big point guard who thrives in the pick and roll. I'm Leaf Tulane of Locked on NBA Big Board, and Topic, to me, if everything goes perfectly, could have the most desirable skill set of the draft as an offensive weapon who will distribute and score out of the pick and roll using his 6'6", 200-pound frame. Topic averaged nearly 15 points and 6 assists this season and demonstrated that skill set with an 89th percentile pick and roll operating ability, which is classified as excellent percentage. And then his shot becomes the question. Is it good enough to punish the defenses that dare him to shoot or go under screens, as he's a crafty driver to the basket who couples size and strength and creativity to finish off plays himself, despite lacking top-end speed nor elite top-end athleticism? Time will tell, and tune into Locked on NBA Big Board or on YouTube or your favorite podcasting app to hear more thoughts on Topic.
All right, last player, and then you're all ready for the draft. Tristan Salon, 18-year-old forward from Cholet in France, famously where Frank Ntilikina applied his trade once upon a time, which means some of you are either all in and some of you are either all out just based off that alone. If the Frank Ntilikina connection there. Averaged 10 points, 4 rebounds, an assist, and a steal for Cholet this past season. Shot about 40.6% from the field, so that's not fantastic. 31.6% from three, also not totally fantastic, but 75% from the free throw line. He played in 54 games and averaged 23 minutes per game. But again, just 18 years old and carving out a role for himself on a team of grown men. Not half bad over there in Europe. He's projected to go on average pick 13 right now. And again, seems more like a riser than a faller. So maybe of all the guys that I talked about on this episode, he might be the least likely to potentially be a Knicks target, but who knows? I guess we'll see. You know what? No matter what, let's hear from Leith Thulin of the Locked on NBA Big Board podcast real quick.
Tristan Salon played at Cholet Basket in France and is a hot topic in draft circles, and deservedly so, as he might have the most potential in the NBA draft. I'm Leif Tulane of the Locked on NBA Big Board, and here's what's to know about Tristan. He's a 6'9", 205-pound wing who's only 18 years old and has played his best basketball late into the season and into the playoffs, leading Cholet to an upset quarterfinal win, hitting big shot after big shot to score 19 points in a playoff game. He averaged 10 points and 4 boards on the season, but just one look at the film and you're quickly convinced of his ability to translate to and eventually thrive in the modern NBA because he's huge, plays with tremendous hustle, and his shot inspires faith despite decent shooting numbers. Another thing I love about Salon is he does not shy away from the moment, as many youngsters and growing shooters do, and he can pair that with the athletic traits that bode well for defensive rebounding as he matures. For more on Tristan Salon, listen to Locked on NBA Big Board on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, and that's it. I hope you guys feel ready for the NBA draft. Hopefully all these clips were really useful to you. They were certainly useful to me to listen to and get a better idea going into the draft. So, check out the draft, sit back, relax, and, feel like you know a little more. But if you don't feel like you know quite enough, be sure to check out the episode from earlier today where I went over a bunch more players with clips on them. Check out the episode we did with Chris Persianen a couple days ago from Knicks Film School. Check out the episodes that we did with Prez. Check out the episodes I did with No Ceilings. There's so much great draft talk that we managed to get into this cycle. And, if you got a few hours left until the draft, why not just consume as much content as you can. But we'll be talking to you, I think, from the draft. Gavin and I are going to try to record a podcast while we're both there. We've managed to somehow connive our way into media badges to go cover the draft. So we're going to try to record a live podcast there, or not live in the sense that we'll both be sitting there. We'll edit it later, of course, to maybe put some insights from the Knicks draft picks or whatever, if we're able to capture some of those. But till then, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.